Welcome to the next episode of the Dragon's Den podcast. Today's guest is Hannah Elmore. Hannah is the Senior Outreach Coordinator for the IAFF Center of Excellence. The COE is a treatment facility for union firefighters that are battling things like addiction, PTSD, depression, and other mental illnesses. We also have Chief Clint Sanchez. Clint went through the COE program and put me into contact with Hannah because of how great his experience was during that time. He credits the COE with saving his life, as have many others. Hannah discussed the admissions process, potential costs, who's a good candidate, tangible steps that fellow firefighters could take in order to help each other, and many other things. Clint recaps his experience in going through the program. If you believe this episode is helpful to you and you would like to know more, please reach out to Hannah, Clint, or myself. Hannah and Clint are making themselves available to talk privately if you want to know more about the COE from the technical side or from the firefighter side. Once again, please call and seek help. Your life matters. All right. So officially, welcome to the next episode of the Dragon's Den podcast. Today we have on with us Miss Hannah Elmore and Mr. Clint Sanchez. The way that this podcast came to be is that I know Clint out of the Baton Rouge Fire Department, and we knew each other previously, and he texted me privately one day about it's been several months, and he said, hey, it'd be a good podcast is I think you should have somebody from the COE to come on and talk about what a great organization they are and the kind of the things that they've done. So I had a bunch of podcasts scheduled at that point, but Clint did reach out to Miss Hannah, and we were able to kind of fit it into the schedule, and we were able to get here. I say face to face. We were able to get this podcast together. One of the other reasons is that there has been a large push for the COE within the fire service. It is coming to light especially with people like, and I'm not going to speak. I'm not speaking about things that aren't already public, but Chief Kurt Isaacson is a big name within the fire service. He has also recently spoke about how important the COE was to him and the fact that he said it saved his life. But it seems like now's a good time that if you don't know about the COE, I think it's a very valuable resource. And so I wanted to try to spotlight it the best I could. And then I asked Clint to come on to kind of go through his experience. So we'll start it out. With Ms. Hannah. She is the Senior Outreach Coordinator for the IAFF Center of Excellence, which is essentially a treatment facility. And she's going to talk about all of the big important things that are within the COE. So, and then the back half of it, we'll have Clint come on. We'll have Chief talk about a little bit about his experience through it. So that's enough from me. Hannah, Clint, welcome to the Dragon's Den podcast. Thank y'all both for coming on, and we'll start it with Hannah. So, Miss Hannah, talk about a little bit about your background, what you do, and then I'll give you the floor.
Totally. Thank you so much, Chris and Clint, for sharing the time for this conversation today. I'm really excited for the opportunity just to chat about behavioral health and really kind of shine a spotlight on behavioral health in the fire service. So thankful for the opportunity to be here today and excited to kick this off. So as Chris said, my name is Hannah Elmore. I'm the Senior Clinical Outreach Coordinator for the IAFF Center of Excellence. A big role that I play is making sure to get this information in front of IAFF members, making sure that it's accessible, that it's something that members are aware of the ins and outs of what's available to them through the IAFF and the confidentiality that's tied so closely to all the different resources to make sure that it's something that members can trust and feel confident reaching out to as well. I do come from a clinical background, so although I'm not offering counseling or direct services to fire service members in this capacity, I did come from that world. And so my background is in clinical social work. I did go to Florida State University for both my bachelor's and master's degrees, and I'm a huge Florida State Seminole fan. So college football is something I love to talk about on the side if you all would like to connect on that.
Have to interrupt you here. I'm a huge Notre Dame fan, and I will not hold the Florida State thing against you, but go Irish. All right, I'm done.
You know how many people say that to me, especially here. I live in Florida, and there's an incredible amount of Gators and Hurricanes fans around here. So I keep my Seminoles tight to me. But prior to joining this team, I did work again more so in direct practice. I received my clinical training in different capacities, including through the VA hospital system in Tampa, as well as through Children's Hospital, through Johns Hopkins All Children's in St. Petersburg, and then in various nonprofit and healthcare settings to kind of inform a little bit about the clinical background that I have. I joined the IAFF Center of Excellence team 3 years ago. And during that time, I have been able to use that clinical background to drive a ton of conversations about mental health, substance use, behavioral health, and the fire service, making it something that is just causing greater awareness around the topics and access to resources, as well as really trying to take those proactive approaches and having conversations about behavioral health in the fire service in a tangible way that members can feel more equipped to take those proactive steps of developing coping skills, developing stress management techniques, better recognizing those signs and symptoms of behavioral health challenges to really incorporate in everyday life. Now, I do recognize that coming from a clinical background does not automatically make me a resource that is something that would make sense for fire service members. I'm not a firefighter myself, and being in this role and being in the front seat of working with fire service members, there's a ton of work I have to do to be able to be someone that can be a resource, that can connect, that can make sense. So I take that very seriously, the need to grow in my cultural competency, blending that clinical experience with just learning and growing in the fire service. More formally, ways I've done that is through different trainings. I am certified in IAFF peer support. I'm also certified through different clinician trainings with the IAFF and learning more so of the treatment side of working with firefighters. But really, I'd say the most valuable experiences that I've had is just spending a ton of time on ride alongs in various departments in various states, and really just spending as much time around the kitchen table and learning from fire service members as much as I can, and just kind of wearing that hat of lifelong learner and doing what I can to keep growing each and every day. It would really not make sense to be in this position and not work really hard to do what I can to really dive in and understand the fire service. And so that's a little bit about my background. In addition to some of those trainings that we offer, which could be a resource available to all you all right now that's looking to gain greater understanding of behavioral health in the fire service. We have an online webinar series where we have virtual trainings twice a month, all about behavioral health and the fire service, really working to have more of those proactive approaches to wellness. Our team has been doing this since 2020. It did originate during the COVID era as a way to connect and provide information to share with all. But it's been really neat to see that although a lot of the virtual kind of capacities of meetings have since returned to in person, the webinars have been a great tool to continue to share this information and reach a wide range of IAFF members, but also provide a space for them to connect with each other. In these webinars, there's an opportunity to chat in the chat box with IAFF members, with peer support team leads, with chaplains, treatment providers from all over the country and Canada, and share ideas, share contact information, and really provide a space for networking. And so if nothing else, it's been a really cool opportunity for me to witness is seeing some of the impact of having this kind of common shared space amongst these proactive behavioral health conversations. Sometimes they're more centered on clinical discussions about common disorders that we're seeing in the fire service. Broader scale discussions have been, how do we develop a behavioral health program within our local, within our department? You know, once a person goes through a peer support training, what's next? How do we consult behavioral health professionals to oversee the peer support team? How do we incorporate some of these wellness proactive approaches? So we do have 2 live webinars a month that are always free to register for, and you can join and come and go as you please. But we also have a full library of on-demand trainings on the IAFF Center of Excellence website to watch at your leisure on the IAFFrecoverycenter.com website. So that's available for all members as well.
All right, so I'm gonna pause you right there. I'm gonna, and this is, it's gonna come off a little rough, but we're firefighters, and asking them to
I love
watch
it.
a webinar. Clint, Chief, he knows that when you try to send out something web-based, that firefighters just aren't gonna watch it. We hope that you do, but it's like that is a plague within the fire service. If it's online, but we
Mhm.
just don't want to do it. But it is good, at least the notification wise, to let it does exist, right? It exists for us, which is good. What I think, what I want to know, from the from a firefighting side is, with Chief Ike, he said he didn't even know, as connected as he is, he didn't even know that the COE existed up until about a few weeks before he went. So he was calling,
Hmm.
he calls it his mental mayday, where he was just reaching out for help. He was spiraling, and he didn't even know that this what the COE was. So, like, broad
Hmm.
picture, I think I would like to move into, like, let us know, what is the COE? What kind of things, what kind of not that, and we know that it's a resource, but what kind of things do you guys treat, and kind of, and then eventually I'd like to go into who's right for the COE. What makes sense? So,
Totally.
broad brush, what is the COE?
Sure. So the IAFF Center of Excellence was developed out of a need to have firefighter specific programming, to have a facility to be able to access care in an environment that's comfortable, that makes sense, and with providers that are trained to really understand the approaches that are beneficial and the treatment that is going to be the most well received by fire service members. So the IAFF Center of Excellence is a behavioral health treatment facility. It is a partnership between the International Association of Firefighters and Advanced Recovery Systems, which is our parent behavioral health treatment company. Advanced Recovery Systems is a network of behavioral health facilities all over the country. But the IFF and Advanced Recovery Systems came together in a partnership to open up the doors of the Center of Excellence in 2017. Now, this is a facility that is exclusively for IFF members. There is nobody else on campus receiving treatment. It is not intermixed with civilians, intermixed with non IFF first responders, spouses. It is only for active or retired members of the IFF. Now, this is really important for a couple of reasons. One being it is the only firefighter specific treatment facility in the country, and having the IFF's oversight really has the fingerprint of everything that they do, all of the highest quality of care that they can offer for their members, and to make sure that it makes the most sense for fire service members. This is a facility for mental health and or substance use treatment. Now, I want to highlight that because the IFF wanted to have a dual licensure of primary mental health and primary substance use because behavioral health is very multidimensional. There are many reasons that members may be needing treatment or accessing care. Sometimes it may be related to addiction or substance use related challenges. Sometimes it may be more closely tied to mental health. Most treatment facilities nationwide are what's called primary substance use licensed, which means that they would require an active addiction or an active substance use challenge for eligibility in treatment. With the IFF Center of Excellence and a dual licensure, we can treat one or the other, whether it be mental health, substance use. Most commonly, we are seeing it co occurring or happening at the same time. And I'll go into maybe some of those reasons why in a little bit. But if somebody is calling and they are not experiencing any difficulties with substance use or addiction, but they are struggling with their mental health, that would fall under eligibility as well. Now, this is really important because issues such as depression, PTSD, anxiety, OCD, complicated grief, social anxiety are many common mental health challenges of fire service members, whether it is related to the job or not.
Yeah.
Now, in addition to that, there may be some individuals that are struggling with substances, whether it be alcohol, opioids, stimulants, other substances that require medical detox and all of those step down levels of care to enter into long term recovery. And we have that on campus as well. So, sorry, go ahead, Chris.
No, I'm almost wondering. I guess it would be a shorter list to say, is there much that y'all don't cover that a firefighter would experience? I guess, that might be a little bit easier, right? Is there anything you're like, hey,
Sure.
we don't really deal with that one?
Yeah, I'll tackle that from both angles. The first angle I will say is whether or not it's related to the job, I really want to emphasize does not matter. We are seeing a ton of individuals that are coming in, and perhaps they have past experiences, whether it be from the military, whether it be from childhood, adverse childhood experiences, childhood trauma, situations that have happened that predate the fire service. And perhaps that's something that perhaps being exposed to potentially traumatic events on the job maybe further complicates that trauma. Maybe it brings it out. Maybe the fire service is not at all impacting one's mental health negatively. And perhaps the fire service is actually the greatest part of one's life and not what is triggering some of these discomforts and some of these difficulties. And that can be confusing as well, because I think there is that misconception that it has to be tied to the job. And we are certainly seeing that is not the case. We are actually seeing there is a ton of past experiences or perhaps challenges that may be predating the fire service, and perhaps maybe why some individuals choose the fire service as a profession. Maybe if individuals are struggling with anxiety or social anxiety, a career in the fire service with clear hierarchy and structure and that built in value system and that built in family may be something that is admirable or attractive to a fire service member. So, want to highlight that it certainly is not a one size fits all reason that individuals may enter into treatment with us. A lot of times we have individuals calling and they say, I have been sweeping these feelings under the rug for so many years that now the pile under the rug is so tall I'm tripping over it and I can no longer be sweeping this under the rug. Others may call us and say, my marriage is headed towards divorce and my spouse is, kind of putting up their hands and is unable to, continue dealing with me. And I feel the need to now kind of address some of these concerns that I've been sweeping under. Others call us and maybe it's because they're facing disciplinary actions on the job. Perhaps they have been trying to cope with alcohol or other substances, and that's leading to increased sick time or calling in last minute to shift or coming in hungover or more disheveled and more brain fog and not put together as much as they once were. Others may have some, increased concerns with increased depression symptoms, suicidal thoughts, difficulty with compassion fatigue and burnout, a wide variety of reasons that individuals may present to treatment or calling for us. Now, to answer your question about, well, what are some of those maybe disqualifying situations that would be a prohibitive factor? I will go more into the admissions process shortly. I will say our team does an extensive pre-assessment to make sure that if a member is arriving on campus with us, that we have made sure that we are the best fit for what they're looking for to prevent any type of false promises and also the effort it is to come to treatment. We want to get them plugged in right away. We don't want there to be a hold on, this might not be the best fit, let's get you somewhere else. So we do a thorough pre-assessment prior to admission. However, some of the more, I don't, concerns that might be a disqualifying factor if somebody has an active eating disorder and they require complete medical oversight to make sure that they are in a safe position with eating. If that is something that is historical or in the past, likely would not be a disqualifying event. If that is their main primary concern, that would typically be something that we would want to have stabilized prior to admission with us because the campus is widespread and we do not have the specialized eating disorder treatment that would be the best fit clinically or medically for a member. Another situation would be perhaps if they have difficulty completing their ADLs, being that we are on 15 acres. It is a kind of a widespread campus. We are ADA compliant, but there may just be some challenges that could inhibit an individual's ability to fully engage in treatment if they have any difficulties with navigating mobility or any type of ADL capabilities. And then another concern could be if there is a TBI that perhaps is requiring some additional medical oversight that might be difficult to fully engage in treatment. But again, nothing is black and white when it comes to mental or behavioral health and even medical. We do have providers on site that have the ability to engage in labs and blood work and making sure that individuals are medically safe while they're on campus too. So I would say if there is any question about whether this would be a good fit for an individual, certainly complete the pre-assessment and let's see if that could be something that would be a good fit for our campus. All of that information does get reviewed by our medical director, who is a psychiatrist and who has been on campus at the Center of Excellence since day one in 2017 and has worked with each and every IAFF member that has come through. And she will be able to evaluate that information and make a medical decision as to whether or not this is the best fit for them. But I will say some of those are more of the general reasons that we may need to have them stabilized in a different capacity prior to coming to us. But the vast majority are coming in with that medical approval and we're able to get them plugged into treatment.
So one of the things so you did the pre-assessment, but what would make somebody a good candidate for the COE? Is there a process where somebody should, and I'm complete ignorance here, somebody should have done peer support first, or they should have done some form of counseling, or is it you get a little bit of that, or do you get a little bit where it's like they haven't done any of that, but they need treatment right now? You get both aspects of that?
Yes, and that's a great question. I would say there's also a common misconception that there has to be steps before somebody reaches out to us, and that is not the case. We are mostly seeing individuals calling us that have never received any type of medical or medical mental health related treatment because a lot of times fire service members are waiting until it reaches closer to a point of crisis before reaching out and asking for help. Now, there's a lot of reasons for that. I think there's a heavy stigma still about reaching out for help. There's concern about how will individuals view me and my operational, readiness if I ask for help. What will my crew think of me, especially those in leadership? And that's a whole separate conversation we can certainly dive into. But I will say it is very common that individuals reach out to us and need to come in right away by the point of reaching out to us. And it's something that they've been struggling with for a long time prior to reaching out and asking for help. There is no authorization required for, a mental health professional to evaluate them. From our perspective, there is no need to try outpatient first and then come to us, because what we are seeing is a lot of times by the time members are reaching out for help, it is a degree that this higher level of care with residential treatment is the best fit for what they're looking for, rather than a once a week outpatient therapy, more of a slower pace. And so there is no type of, needing to meet with peer support, needing to meet with a clinician. Sometimes we see that. And a lot of locals have really robust peer support policies and programs where they have somebody right away connect with them, and they're really well versed in working through kind of triaging, if you will, and having a really strong relationship with us too, and helping to kind of have peer support be that supportive individual that helps them through this process. But from our perspective, there is no requirements to getting connected to us. And really, anybody can make the call. The members themselves can make the call, but we oftentimes also hear from peer support frequently. Sometimes spouses initiate that call. Maybe somebody's lieutenant or battalion chief or somebody that is in leadership is making that call. So again, there's not one reason that people call us, and there's also not one way to get connected to us. And we definitely see there's different capacities that individuals are connecting with us. But from our perspective, there is no requirement prior to calling us.
So I want to touch on this and then move to another thing really quickly. But so it is IFF, it is union. So what if there's a non-union guy listening, like, okay, I think I need help with this, because me and you had this discussion offline, Hannah, where
Mhm.
y'all are a private company, y'all are a private firm, but you said that we have their non-private options within the realm. They may not be firefighter for specific, but for, let's say, once again, for the non-union member who's listening, if you wanted to touch on that real quick, because that won't be Center of Excellence, that'll be elsewhere. But I wanted you to tap on that, and I want to jump to something else.
Totally. So we want to be a resource that members, whether they are members of the IFF or first responders, any type of first responder, or even a family member of a first responder, although the Center of Excellence would not necessarily be a fit for you, being that you're not affiliated with the union, we are here to help connect you with a community partner. Our parent company, Advanced Recovery Systems, that I had discussed in the beginning, that partnered with the IFF to specifically create the Center of Excellence, is a network of behavioral health facilities nationwide. We have general population facilities. We have the ability to work with other first responders. We have culturally competent clinicians in other first responder professions. We work very closely with veterans through the VA CCN network as well. So we would be more than happy to get somebody connected to a resource that makes the most sense for them. In addition to that, we work very hard to identify not only the residential programs, but also outpatient in your own backyard. If somebody is looking for a recommendation for a therapist, whether you are an IFF member or whether you are not, we would be more than happy to get you connected with a clinician in your home state that our team has vetted specifically to work with first responders. We put them through a pretty thorough vetting process to make sure that we are getting to the root of their certifications, their background, their experiences working with first responders, or even first responder families, first responder couples and spouses and kids. So that is something that is available at no cost to any first responder at any time. If somebody is looking for a connection to any type of resource, whether it be a vetted outpatient resource in your home state, a residential treatment program, a substance use treatment program, whatever that is, we are more than happy to extend connections, whether it's within Advanced Recovery Systems network or whether it's with community partners that we use and trust for these purposes. We are more than happy to establish that connection to those resources.
Excellent. So I wanted to jump from that to, which is great, all that stuff, and it's going to come up. It's going to come up on this very next thing where you said, we have that as a free resource. We will reach out, we will help, we will do these things for those non-union members. So being that y'all are a private firm, what a lot of people, I know that when I first heard about it, I was like, oh, it's IAFF, so the costs are all covered, and that is not
Mhm.
always the case. I would like you to go into what can a member expect on the realm of what is this going to cost me, because treatment can potentially be very expensive. So I wanted you to touch on that.
Absolutely. So I agree with you. I think there is a common misconception that because it's an IFF resource, it is covered payment wise through the IFF. We are a medical treatment facility, so we do utilize medical insurance. With that being said, the exact out of pocket expectation that a member would be prepared to pay, it completely varies depending on what your specific medical insurance plan looks like. This could vary from pennies to the dollar to a couple $1,000s, really just depending on what your deductible looks like, what your out of pocket max looks like, and what your co-insurance rate looks like. In a general conversation, we are in network with most major insurances to work to keep the cost as low as possible and to make it accessible for members. But I will say, it really just depends on what your specific plan looks like. But Blue Cross Blue Shield, United Healthcare, Aetna, Cigna, Humana, VA Community Care Network. I am definitely missing some of the common ones. The large insurance companies we are in network with. Now, I do want to give an example of a reason that we would love to proactively run anyone's insurance that is curious of what their members' insurance coverage would look like. It's helpful to do it proactively so that number one, we can be completely transparent and show individuals this is what your insurance plan breakdown looks like. And then that can be shared with members, but also so we can identify if there are any insurance restrictions on one specific plan. I will give an example within the state of Louisiana, given that we are, chatting with two Louisianians right now. Blue Cross Blue Shield, we are in network with. However, Blue Cross Blue Shield commonly offers two plan options, a PPO plan option and an HMO plan option. HMO plan options are restricted to the state of residence. So in Louisiana, for example, individuals with an HMO plan through Blue Cross Blue Shield would historically be restricted to the state of Louisiana for any type of medical care, whether it's mental health, cancer treatment, specialized treatment, it would be within the state of Louisiana. Now, what we can do to tackle that on a case by case basis is with the member's permission, we can basically work directly with Blue Cross Blue Shield and attempt to get a single case agreement, which is explaining to Blue Cross Blue Shield, this is a specialized treatment program. It does not exist in Louisiana. So we are asking for authorization to leave the state of Louisiana. Now, that is a case by case way that we can work through that. But what we like to do is eliminate those barriers altogether. So we kind of do our homework after we recognize this is a common issue, and we do what we can to establish contracts and relationships within the insurance companies to create a greater pathway that kind of eliminates that restriction entirely. We are currently in the works with Blue Cross Blue Shield of Louisiana, for example, of establishing that pathway to, if you will, fast forward some of those authorizations that are necessary for those that are on those restricted plans. So our team not only works on a case by case basis if there are any insurance hurdles, but then we work proactively on the back end to eliminate them entirely if we're able to and establish greater pathways forward. I will say we've done that with direct contracts with many municipalities and very large municipalities throughout the country for those that have more of those restricted plan offerings, as well as direct contracts directly with municipalities to kind of eliminate the insurance headache altogether. So for those that are listening, if you don't know what your insurance coverage looks like, I would love to connect with you and be able to proactively pull that information and share it with you and be able to be transparent for members. But then also, if we know about any type of restrictions before there's a crisis, then we're better equipped to work through the crisis faster and get members connected to resources ASAP. So that's something we can do at any time. If anybody wants to connect offline, we can go through those insurance conversations. And it is just so unique to each plan that it's hard to have a large scale conversation about cost because it is so dependent upon one's individual coverage. Now, the IFF does have the IFF Foundation, And they do cover some fees for members on campus that insurance does not cover. And that is including the boarding fees of individuals that are in the PHP and IOP levels of care. To simplify it, these levels of care in traditional PHP and IOP programs, typically individuals are not living on campus. They're usually commuting from home to those programs. With the IAFF Center of Excellence being one facility for the entire IAFF, individuals do stay on campus with us and continue to house with us in those levels of care. Insurance would not cover those boarding fees, so the IAFF Foundation does. So there is no additional cost to members to be able to live with us during those levels of programming.
Excellent. Very, yeah. So could be a little bit, could be a lot, and y'all do some things to try to make it be not a lot. So
Yes,
we'll
and
leave
I
it
don't
there.
mean to interrupt you, but I want to make sure I also highlight, we recognize finances can be a contributing factor to one's decline, one's stress, one's anxiety. Finances are it unites all of us. We've all had moments of financial stress and even financial crisis. So one thing I will say, let's say you do have a higher deductible plan, or you have a plan with a high out-of-pocket max, whatever that may look like. If finances are a concern, we have connections to nonprofits to be able to help. We also have interest-free payment plans available on campus. We have a financial case manager who can walk you through what that looks like. Let us know if finances are of concern. There's even some locals through the IFF that have benevolence funding that they raise for the purposes of helping to pay for flights, helping to contribute towards deductibles. So we can always, with the members' permission, see if that's something that would be available through their local as well. But definitely want to recognize and highlight that, yes, even if one has insurance, it can still be stressful financially, and let us see what we can do to connect with any possible resource to eliminate some of that barrier as well.
Excellent. So that's going to lead me to our just basically into the next thing, which I would like to know, just so people understand that that the average length of stay. That how long can you expect to show up? I know that that's going to be very dependent on what you're looking for and what the issue is, but generally speaking, I'd like you to talk a little bit about length of stay.
Sure. So we look at behavioral health in a very individualized manner. We do not believe that there is a one size fits all length of stay for everybody. Humans are multidimensional. There's a lot of different reasons that might inform how long somebody can kind of be projected to stay with us on campus. So our average, for those that are kind of curious of what to expect, is usually 35 to 45 days, or about 5 weeks. But that maybe a little less, maybe a little more, depending on a member's medical needs. Some of the reasons that some of the kind of factors that might inform how long somebody stays with us on campus evolves throughout their treatment stay with us. How are they interacting and responding and engaging, if you will, in groups and with their providers? If they have been on a new medication or adjusted medication prescription dosages, how are they responding to that? Giving them enough time for that to take full effect, and then perhaps be able to adjust prior to discharge. So these are some of the factors that might inform how long individuals are with us. So it is definitely individualized, but we do see that average length of stay, and our curriculum is adjusted around that 5 week average mark. But I do want to highlight, it is a voluntary program. So it is very different than a hospital feel where individuals maybe are involuntary placed. This is a voluntary program where individuals would have the autonomy to leave if they so wished to. Now, I will say our medical team works very hard to educate the reasons why clinically and medically it's safest to stay throughout one's duration of treatment, to kind of complete the treatment in full. But I do want to acknowledge that it is a voluntary program, although that is our, average length of stay, and each member is strongly recommended and supported by the medical team to complete their stay in full, just to make sure that they are in a safe situation medically and clinically and fully equipped to return home.
Excellent. So, one of the other things that I want to talk about, you said that the COE was specifically designed for firefighters. So, as we know, there are a million rehab facilities all over the place. We've got a bunch just in our hometown. I'm sure Baton Rouge does also. So, what is it about the COE that separates itself as a firefighting? And Clint, you'll speak to this a little bit later from your experience. But what is the COE trying to do to separate itself as a firefighter treatment facility?
Totally. And I am really excited to hear Clint's thoughts on this as well. But I'll say just in general, this is the only facility that has the IFF's oversight and the IFF's approval for their members. This is the only one that the IFF stands behind, if you will, for membership. It is carefully crafted in the way that it is set up, not only the visuals and kind of the environment of the different station houses, the way that individuals are housed in the evenings and for, rest time, the gathering, recreation room, if you will, in the middle of the sleeping quarters, the way that the dining hall is set up with the long kitchen tables, similarly to the firehouse. So the visuals have the firehouse in mind. But I will say this team has complete oversight of the IFF. So in terms of how everything is structured with our admissions process, to the way that our clinicians are trained, to the experience day to day that the members go through, has that oversight of the IFF to make sure that it is applicable to the fire service. I will speak to there are a ton of programs out there, and I will echo your sentiment there. And there are a ton of amazing programs out there, and I will absolutely echo that. But I will say we do see there is great success in that camaraderie of other like-minded individuals to have those shared experiences, not only for comfortability and rapport, but clinically, we're seeing a ton of clinical progress for individuals that have those other like-minded individuals in their groups with them, utilizing cognitive processing therapy, for example, to kind of lean on each other's shared experiences of trauma to help overcome and work through. I've heard from other fire service members that have gone to facilities that are, mostly or all general population civilians, and there was a little bit of a challenge with feeling comfortable to kind of fully put down the wall and fully engage with others because of the concern about, traumatizing others, or that secondary vicarious trauma, perhaps feeling unable to relate to maybe some of what the others are struggling with compared to what they have been struggling with, and having some of those difficulties with clinicians not understanding best practices of working with fire service members. I will say in the way that some symptoms even present are different for firefighters than they are for civilians oftentimes too. Firefighters are very good at masking and really putting up a good front, being very productive, being very on the go, really good at compartmentalizing. And some clinicians that may not have experience working with first responders, they may miss maybe some of those underlying symptoms of behavioral health challenges if they are only used to seeing maybe some of those more classic symptoms of behavioral health challenges. So if an individual were to go to a facility that did not have the extensive experience working with first responders, perhaps there may be some missed symptoms or missed situations that then they may not be effectively or fully treated for what they are struggling with. And then less clinically, if you will, what I mostly hear from first responders that have attended the Center of Excellence is, yes, the clinical programming has been very impactful, but what they mostly got out of it was that time with other IFF members, really sharing such, private conversation and time, really peer-led, having the ability to have those shared experiences and feel that it's not just them. It's, they have all these other individuals that are really validating their experiences as well. And certainly we'll kick that over to Clint to touch on much further.
Yeah, sure. I want to say I invited Ryan Davies once again. This is he'll talk to you he'll talk to you about it at length if you want to talk to him. But he said the exact same thing. He said one of the more important things was the conversations after with the guys. That was some of the more impactful. Not to say once again the clinician side didn't help or didn't work. That's not what he said. But the
Mhm.
value of having a bunch of firefighters around, kind of doing that shared discussion was he said it might have been the biggest part of it. So yeah, I want to once again didn't go through it. Once again, Clint's going to have his story on that, but I just wanted to reemphasize that I also heard it from a different guy that went through it to the exact same extent. Um, One of the things that we wanted to touch on, now that we've kind of moved mostly through, we kind of crash course the COE a little bit. I wanted to touch on if what can you're talking to a bunch of firefighters, right? That may not know the COE exists, or I said earlier that I said earlier off the podcast, actually, I said it on the Facebook message when I introduced you that this is not the sexy topic of the fire service. A bunch of we like talking about search and forcible entry and pulling hose. This is mental illness is not something that's super attractive. So for guys that are listening to this as some regular old firemen, um, I want to see if you can give us some tangible steps, some things to look out for. What can we do either as the people that maybe not the people that are struggling as much because they need to reach out, but for guys that maybe aren't struggling, that you kind of
Mhm.
either see or hear stuff, and maybe you don't have a super well developed peer support program. Maybe you have zero peer support program because I heard your last podcast that you had sent me. The guy that you were talking to, they had a great peer support system. Everything
Mhm.
was very formalized and good. What if you don't have it and you're just hearing some guys say some things or you're seeing some destructive behavior?
Mhm.
Give us some tangible steps from our side of what kind of stuff can we do to help move them toward the process of what needs to happen on their side.
Totally. And I'm so glad you asked that because I think it can be really intimidating to be in a position where you want to step in and you want to help, but you're not quite sure how, and you don't really know what to say. And how do I say the right thing? How do I say the wrong thing? And one thing I think is really important to remember is being there matters more than what you say. And being in a position of caring and checking in really carries a lot of value. I think and I'm guilty of this too. I get caught up on, okay, what do I need to say to make this better? Or what do I need to say to know exactly how to speak to this person and what they're struggling with? But most of the things that individuals are struggling with, there is not a magic clause that can be shared with them that will take away their pain or that will fix, the situation. What's more important is being present, actively listening to one another, checking in with one another, and I think kind of starting it when things are going well so that individuals know this is someone that has, continued to check in on me, and not just when things are not going well, but really establishing yourself as somebody that is a supportive person to lean on in the good, bad, and the ugly. Normalizing conversations about checking in with each other, normalizing conversations about just, hey, how are you doing? I've noticed that you have been isolating a little bit more. Like, what's been going on? How are things at home? Or, just checking in without being very assertive, without being authoritative, but finding a way to just have those moments of connection and moments of just checking in. There's a couple of different tools that can be utilized. One tool that is helpful is it's called the stress continuum model, and it's a visualized kind of scale of looking at different stress reactions and maybe some symptoms that somebody would be having depending on the level of stress injury they may be dealing with. And that can be a kind of helpful conversation starter of kind of normalizing having that around the station or around the kitchen table, and maybe having it be a morning routine of checking in with each other. Hey, where are we today? And that kind of informs what next steps are needed. Perhaps if somebody is more so in the orange or the red, what are my resources that I can help get them connected with, whether it's the Center of Excellence, whether it's a therapist, whether it's a peer or even a friend or a loved one. So if somebody's looking for a tangible tool or maybe a helpful way of learning about some tools or conversation starters, perhaps that could be a helpful one. But I would say just really leading with active listening, really trying to focus on our body language when someone is talking to us, giving them our full attention, not being distracted by our phones and by other conversations, arranging for privacy, making sure that if a member does come to us and they're kind of opening up about some things they're struggling with, maybe taking that extra effort to go into a quieter part of the station and not publicizing it in front of everybody around the kitchen table. Telling them, I'm glad that you're reaching out to me. This is something that I want to support you with. How can I support you? How can I be a better friend to you or a better crew member or teammate? And just really knowing what those resources are. A big role that I play, like I said, not only in the education piece, but being somebody that peers can kind of call and lean on to kind of go back and forth and kind of share examples with. And if there's anything that would be helpful for me to jump in and just kind of provide clarity on further resources or on options for those members, I'm happy to do what I can if that's kind of an extension for peer support to have as kind of a someone to lean on to. I'm more than happy to help with that. But I think it's just really important to enter into conversations non-judgmentally, leading with empathy, focusing on active listening and really just genuinely checking in with each other more frequently and making it more of a kind of a habit, and not only after a particularly distressing call or a very negative situation, but having it be more of a everyday proactive check in with each other, I think really does go a long way too. Just letting everyone know it's okay not to be okay. And we've all experienced it. And it's not something that's going to disqualify you from a life in the fire service or make you any less effective.
Yeah, no doubt. I got a shout out to Chief Sparacello. Chief Sparacello, he checks in on me. He's one of the few guys, like I got 17 some odd years in the fire service, and he's one of the I don't want to leave anybody out that has done it in the past, because then that would make me look bad. But I Chief Sparacello check in all the time. He'll be like, "Hey man, just literally just checking in. Is everything good?" And so I've tried to be better about it. I have a lot to say about this. I'll try to keep it tight, but it's interesting because I know that I'm not the only person that he does that to. I know that there's multiple people, and I feel like on the people that are checking in, here's my thought. If you're a person that checks in and you're doing it for a lot of people, which I know Chief Sparacello does, it can be a little bit overwhelming because he can't get to everybody, right? He can't check in to 500 people within the fire service. So I think it's important that it's not you can't leave it to just the Sam Sparacellos of the world, that we've all got to kind of step up and take a few guys and be, kind of split the load of, hey, I'm here if you need to talk, because there are a ton of
Mhm.
guys for me that I've yapped to about, whatever issue is, and they're not dumping on me. I'm dumping on them, and they're
Mhm.
taking up a lot of time. So it's important for us to say, hey, I'm a guy that you can just, if you need to pile on, just call me and pile on to kind of get it off the chest a little bit, and know that, if it does start to escalate, maybe I do need to reach out to the IAP program or peer support, or possibly all the way up to the COE or something like that. So
Mhm.
the other thing that you said earlier, which I also want to touch, is you said the stigma, saying it's okay to not be okay. Ryan Davies had a buddy that went through, and Ryan Davies is one of our local firemen. His buddy had started, I don't want to say a nonprofit. I'm not quite sure the organizational thing, but it's basically, fuck the stigma is essentially what it is, with the little star on the U. But it was to, and he went to the COE either at the same time of Ryan or not. But anyway, the point was saying the same thing. Like, we don't have to just pretend like everything's fine. You can go
Mhm.
and get that mental, you can go and get checked out, go talk to somebody, all the way up to treatment if necessary. So anyway, I wanted to kind of support what you were saying there. Um, so
And if I will,
go
I
ahead,
do
go ahead.
want to just piggyback off of that. I don't mean to, take too much time, but I just really want to validate one's experience of reaching out and asking for help. We are seeing when individuals reach out and receive treatment or therapy or whatever it is for whatever they're struggling with, they have a far higher likelihood of a longer career, healthier bodies, healthier marriages and homes. There's that fear of, well, if I reach out and ask for help or go to treatment, then I'm not going to be able to be an effective fire service member, or it's not going to go well for me. We are seeing the opposite when individuals are bringing to light what they're struggling with, processing through it, finding the tools, and coming home, being able to return and have a lengthier typically career, because it is something that they have the tools to be more effective at and to work through their struggles, but also healthier home lives, healthier, less risk of chronic illnesses. If we are constantly battling these high symptoms of mental health and issues, that's going to tie into worse sleep quality, that's going to tie into higher, greater risk of chronic illnesses such as cancer and diabetes and hypertension. And all of these kind of mind body connections come to play. So, what I will say is, everybody here, everybody listening, everyone is worthy of receiving treatment, no matter what you're struggling with, whether it's tied to the fire service, whether it's tied to childhood, whether it's just common everyday stressors that are really keeping you down and really burdening you. There is no requirement to reach crisis before asking for help. There is so much help and support available to you before reaching that point, and you are more than welcome to and more than valid to reach out and ask for support at any time. And knowing that it's something that there is help and support available to get you through to a position of feeling better and feeling more equipped to really just tackle every day. And certainly, is a strength to reach out and ask for help and be able to lean on those that are here to support you.
Excellent. So Miss Hannah, we're gonna put you on pause for a second, and we're gonna let you take a break, gather some of your thoughts, and we're gonna kick it over to Clint. So I know that, and just real quick, I know Hannah, you could talk about the COE for forever, and I know you're trying to blast through it, and I get it, I get it. The one of the things I know on the Hannah side, I know that you have 1,000 testimonials of a bunch of firemen that you have personally talked to that have said good things about the COE, and we were going to kind of get into that, but then the fact that Clint was the one that connected us, and Clint was pretty open about talking about some of his stuff on Facebook and kind of sharing his experiences. I said, well, instead of hearing it from Hannah, who works for the COE, why don't we hear it from a local fireman who went through it that has something to say about his experience? And so I invited him in, and once again, I thought hearing it from him directly would be a little bit more impactful. And so we're going to let him share his experience. Hannah, if you feel like you need to cut in or if y'all need to bounce on it off of each other, it's perfectly okay. But we'll get back to you at the end, Miss Hannah. So, if you got something, jot it down. But we're going to kick it over to Clint.
So, first off, thanks for giving me a platform, right? I'm going to just kind of touch on some notes I wrote as sheets. So I guess it'll follow Miss Hannah chronologically. And I can talk a lot if you know me. And I'm a squirrel brain. So just cut me off at any point.
I will. I promise I'll cut you off. I promise. Go ahead.
So me historically, and look, I'm an open book. And it sounds cliche to say it, but I'm an open book as a person, right? But when it comes to this, I'm passionate about it now. And hey, if the one person listens to this show and says, I'm not okay, I have these issues, and goes to the COE and gets better, hey, it's worth it to me. So historically, so I now know I'm so like Hannah said, it's not necessarily, it doesn't have to be fire service related. My career I'm the chief of information and technology, right? A hopped up word for computer guy. Historically, when I was riding the trucks, quite some time ago, because I'm on year 28, I just had kind of a meh career, saw a little bit of this, saw a little bit of that, but up there, I've heard stories from guys that were just in the trenches, just getting drugged through the ringer, seeing all the things, right? So I say that to say my experience is really from what they call ACEs, adverse childhood experiences, that I've since learned, having been up there, that have kind of molded me into who I was, right? So came up, got married, I ruined that. And then I just progressively got worse. I was diagnosed initially, which I was misdiagnosed, I found out at the COE. Before going there, they said, you're bipolar. And so that's kind of my diagnosis, right? They threw some medication at it, and that was reactive, right? So they never my therapist that I went to never really got to the root. They didn't peel the onion open proverbially. So fast forward to probably late last year, early this year, I just started wilding out. I was drinking a lot. And it was just causing chaos at home. Did a lot of things. Okay. And so at one point, my daughter, when my last crisis, I guess, my daughter sat down and said, Dad, I don't recognize you. I don't know who you are. And that really hit home. So it's not like I was voluntold to come. It just, at that point, I realized I've been trying to manage this for 40 something years. And I can't do it. Like, I was ill equipped to do it. And it was just pushing down, pushing down, pushing down, pushing down. So it was one Saturday morning. I called Jake, our union president, and I had known the COE existed, just kind of in passing. They would say, hey, here's your benefits. We have this place, right? And it was I knew about it, but at that point I said, now I need to see about it, right? So I called him, and he said, I'm on it. Hung up. he connected me with the COE people, right? The admissions team. And so he started asking the questions, and I answered the questions. Like, trust me, you answer the questions about a dozen times, right? Fortunately, I wasn't on the proverbial ledge, so to speak. And I'll get to that because I feel like as a fire service, we can get you off the ledge. I told you this. We can get you off of the ledge, but then we just kind of leave you where you're at. And the COE is a good way of bridging that gap, right? From you're flashing out to wellness. So we're good at the front end, right? We're good at keeping you from, if you're having suicidal ideations, all those things. But this is where the COE really comes in place. So he called. I ended up talking to. It was like I had one guy, right? Like, you're not bouncing around. This guy got, latched onto me, so to speak, and was texting me, was just making sure I was okay, right? So, like I said, I wasn't on that ledge, but I ran into some difficulties with my insurance company that she talked about. I'm trying not to just roast anybody because this was really frustrating. We were out of network, like she said, so we had to do this single case agreement thing, and not ARS or the COE or anybody, because those people fought for me. And when I tell you, the union president fought for me, Hannah's team fought for me, the IAFF fought for me, I fought for me. Like, I figured the more noise we make, the better this is, for a good outcome, right? I felt like that was a hurdle, just because I was like, man, what if somebody's on that ledge and if you have suicidal ideations, you don't have time to wait the 2 weeks that it took this process, right? And the process it's just red tape. It's just bureaucratic crap. And like I said, IAFF was hounding the people. It didn't help that Blue Cross had a third party that administered the mental health, and that was a proverbial show. And I cuss a lot, so I'm trying not to. But long story short, they fought for me, man. And all the while, my ARS, I'm gonna call him my keeper, right? He was texting me every day. You good? You good? You good? Hey, this is an update. You good? Like, all of those things, right? Finally got the thumbs up, right? Now they were ready to, when I first called, they were like, can you be on a plane tomorrow? And so that's results, right? Understand they have so many beds there, and if they have an opening, blah, blah, blah. But people are cycling through there, man. It was like 50 something people, right? People are just gone. My length of stay was 41 days. So long story short, I book a flight. Boom, I'm heading up there. Before I left, I had to give them my flight, right? Hey, this is my flight number, and they're tracking you from the time you hit TSA at your home airport to you land. You get to the airport, you're picked up by it was an Uber for me, but they have a van that typically picks people up. I came in kind of late at night. Notwithstanding, they drive you the 45 minutes. I landed at Reagan. And they know you're coming, right? So your peers know you're coming. So, man, when I got out that Uber, somebody grabbed my luggage. Somebody said, hey, man. They started hugging up, all the things, right? So you go in, you do a little, all the medical stuff, right? And somebody, I almost said something that. Should have put it on mute, but I have a new iPhone and it's tricky. But nonetheless, you were greeted by your peers, man, and they hold your hand and they say, hey, let's walk around. So I went to all of the 4 stations. Hey, y'all, this is Clint. Hey, and all that. So that peer thing was, I'll circle back to that, but that was great, right? So you feel at home, boom, immediately. Then you go to the medical thing. It's like the first station you stay at for about 3 days, 4 days, depending on your thing. I wasn't detoxing per se. Like, I hadn't had a drink in those 2 weeks that it took me to get there. So you get there, you stand in med B is where it was. And you're living it, right? Like, they're like, hey, go to I call them classes, but it's group therapy, right? Go. Here's your schedule. take off. If you're on this track, if you're on the mental health path, so to speak, if you're on the substance path, get it. It's time to start learning, right? There was a bunch of us there that were on. It's not either or, right? Like I was my path was kind of like this. I was later diagnosed with, imagine this, narcissistic personality disorder, with a moderate substance abuse, that being Travelers Bourbon. So man, I hit the ground running. And they're like, bro, you need to go to the fire, go to the fire, go to the fire. The fire, for those who don't know, which is probably everybody, is like an unofficial. In the evening, you sit around a campfire. One person typically tells their story, and it's great. I'll say this: Hannah couldn't say it, or probably wouldn't. So the clinicians and all that are mandatory reporters, right? So some people, and we learned, have done things that maybe they couldn't come clear with to the clinicians because they have to do. If you say I was driving around drunk with my kids in the car, they have to act on that, right? Understandably so. So the fire. The first couple of nights, I was like, that sounds kind of hokey. I don't know. That's all that feelingsy kind of stuff. I feel like that's part of our culture, part of my diagnosis, right? Like we don't talk about it. We just suck it up and move on, which is toxic. We have that toxic, I call it a toxic culture, right? So about day 3 or 4, I was like, let me go see what this fire is all about. So I go out there, somebody's telling their story, and what I've learned at the fire is, now we don't compare my experiences versus your experiences, but you hear people out there that they have it way worse, so to speak, right? Like their destructive behavior just is way worse than yours. So if you're like I was thinking, bro, ain't nobody did. I was the worst, right? There was people who've had worse experiences, so to speak. So I say that to say, and I said it numerous times while at the COE. We hear about this, and this is going to be kind of about the I don't know, whatever. We say the brotherhood, the brotherhood, the brotherhood. Well, I say the brotherhood exists on 9/11 and the other 364 days of the year. Other people's experiences might be different. It's just not that, right? Well, the brotherhood was at that campfire, I'm telling you, because one person tells their story and you're there to support them, and you're there to it's raw. Now, don't get me wrong, but it's phenomenal. They have that every night, right? So you go, or not every night, a few nights a week, right? I think, I don't remember. But so the campfire was phenomenal. And again, that's just you around your peers, kind of off the cuff, not formal, informal, or whatever you want to call it. And that was great. So you go to the group therapies every day, right? From, I don't know, like 8 to 4 or something. But at no point in those group therapies was I looking at the clock, like, when is this thing gonna be over? Because most people, admit that they can't do it on their own. Like, again, we've tried for all these years. I went in there like a sponge, right? Willing to learn, and just kind of, and I'm social, but I'm shy also. So I was leery of it at first, but you're in the stations are set, or the station houses are set up like a fire station, like she said. There's the whole, I call it the living room, the day room, right? With couches and chairs. And that's where your group therapy happens. So you want to kick off your shoes and recline, do it. It's all about comfort, right? The clinicians get up there and they don't teach. They basically foster conversations amongst you all, right? And man, it was great because you were talking to each other. The clinicians were telling you a lot of stuff and equipping you with a bunch of knowledge. Now, that first week, I'm pulled out of class left and right because you're going to this psychologist, your doctor, your clinician, all the things. But it starts immediately, and I feel like I learned that at the COE. By the way, that was an I feel statement. That the whole, like, from day 1 to day 41, I was being taught how to handle life when I get back home, right? Like the goal is, I don't want to say the goal is to get you in and get you out. The goal is to get you in, give you the tools to be productive when you get out. Okay. So I had my clinician. She was a heavy hitter, but that was good. That was what I needed. And you go in there and she would call me on my crap and see, like they know, like, oh no, that's not right. Come on. I don't know, doesn't live there. So, I met with my clinician once a week. I did EMDR, which I'm gonna leave that to you, Hannah, because you're the professional, but I can tell you my experiences with it. She can explain it. It seemed super hokey at first, right? Like I was like, what is this? And I was reluctant, right? Because also when you do EMDR, you're not going to do one treatment. You're going to do a bunch, right? So I say that to say they offer a bunch of, or a couple other modalities she can touch on. But anyways, I did the EMDR, man, and what that does is, I'm going to layman's terms it, right? I'm a fireman, and it triggers you to get deep down into your memory, because again, I had adverse childhood experiences that I didn't even think. No, I had a good childhood. I learned about the brain and just how powerful that thing is, and just one little hiccup in the continuum, so to speak, will negatively impact you. Did that, was cured, right? Like not cured, but I knew. So I said, again, cut me off. I said I went up there. I wanted to recognize the monster. Okay. Initially, I said, oh, whoops. Initialize the monster. Fight the monster, and then go home. But that broadened so much when I got up there. Now I feel like that's another one. Feel like I was taught, hey, this is the monster, and you're not going to kill the monster. The monster is going to be with you forever. But I learned how to respect the monster, know why the monster's there, and learn how to not let the monster affect you so much. So, man, my stay was nothing short of phenomenal. I hope my wife doesn't watch this podcast, but it was almost like a vacation, because you get up there and you're in the bubble. And when I tell you the bubble is magical, I call it, I don't even want to call it rehab. I want to call it damn near Disney World for firemen, right? Like there's no roller coasters, but I'm sure they'd put one if we needed one. So you're there. All the crap that caused you to be there is gone, right? Like your day is scheduled, your meals are I mean, for Christ's sake, the executive chef used to be a presidential chef, right? So I say that to say it's good food. A lot of people put on like 20, 30 pounds. And so every part of your day is scheduled to keep you, a blank slate, so to speak, and ready to get the tools that you need. That's a double-edged sword, because when you get home, all that crap that sent you up there is still, it didn't change, And I would say that was the hardest part about being up there, was just being away from home. And this isn't going to be like an indictment against the COE, but you're up there and they tell you it ain't going to work if you're not here for any reason other than yourself. And they beat it in your head to be selfish. Be selfish. All by virtue of your career, you're not selfish, right? But this is one instance where you have to. So my wife, she was doing the single mom thing with the kids running all over the place, and it started getting kind of stressful, I guess, for her. And however, we had weekly. You also have weekly sessions, virtual sessions with your person, right? Which most people is a spouse or whatever. And again, those are not so much like marital therapy or whatever. It's gearing your person for your coming home, right? Hey, this is what it's going to look like. This is this, that, and the other. But they also kind of was like, hey, trust the process, and they say that repeatedly. And as firemen, we're going to go in there and we're going to be, we're going to push back on the process, right? Because we don't like the unknown. But once I kind of trusted the process, right, it gave me the ability almost to say, I don't care what's going on at home, right? This is me, because I'm no good to anybody if I'm not fixed. And it's as a result of my diagnosis, like at one point something didn't go my way or whatever here. I got passed up for promotion, and I shut it down. So I lost about 10 years of my career. Yeah, I did my job, but I didn't have that passion, like, and that vigor and all that, like I feel like I have now. So I feel like I lost those years, but now having gone there, I only have like 2 years. I'm on the drop, right? But I'm running to the finish line, right? So it gave me my freaking marriage back, right? Because I don't have but 81% of my retirement because of my first wife. But it gave me I kept 81% of my retirement, right? My marriage, my kids, my freaking career, because I was doing some pretty horrible crap that had I got caught, like that would be it. I'm done. So it gave me my life back, right? I dare say it saved my life. Maybe not physically, although I was giving my liver a run for it. Everything. It saved everything. So let's think. The Blue Cross thing was a hurdle, but like I said, they fought for me. My union president even kind of basically got with Blue Cross and was like, look, we're gonna remember this come negotiations. And since I don't know, something with the red tape, they've managed to kind of streamline that. And like Hannah and then we're talking like, yo, this is a must, right? So it's easier to get in. I had a retiree come a couple months ago, I guess. He called me and he was like, hey man, you went to the COE, tell me about it. So I told him and he said, yeah, enough. I've had it, like, my way isn't working, right? So he sat right here in my chair that you can't see this right there and said, what do I have to do? And I got out of this chair and I reached over to this phone and I called the 800 number for him. And he got the same guy I got, right? So it was awesome. It was nothing short of kismet or God or whatever you believe, right? So it was, and he got in easily. There was one little clerical mix up on he goes by one name, but it's his middle name, whatever. But he got up there and he's since come back and he's the same thing. He's a changed guy. His wife said, and this is profound to me, I can't wait for you to get home so I can meet you. And that was good, bro. So what else? The length of stay, like I said, I was 41 days, and don't get frustrated if you go up there because they're not going to tell you. They're not going to tell you when you graduate because they don't because we don't want to. Oh well, I only got a week left, and I'm going to just skate because it's I'm going to call it programming, but I don't mean it in that sense. But it's day one to day to when you get on the plane, right, to come home, and even afterwards, I get phone calls. I don't even know the cadence, but the guy from the COE just calling, checking in, man. Just how are you doing? Because you don't leave until you have your aftercare plan set up, and that's they call it your bro. I don't even remember what it was. It's your paper, right? That says, hey, family, this is my signs and symptoms of when I'm not well. This is who to call because you develop you at home. You create a support system, right? And one of the biggest things is, I guess, the knowledge to say, I'm not well, right? I mean, 20% of us aren't. We were just looking that up. And that equates to there's like 1,042,000 or something members, firefighters, right? And that's like 200 something thousand. That's a lot of people, right? And the stigmas are going away, right? Because if you think about it, you're a better employee, right? You're a better dad. You're a better pickleball player because you got experience on the court up there. All the things, right? So, length of stay. She talks about the mask, right? That we typically get. Well, out the jump, they're teaching you about what a mask looks like, and we even did an activity. We did crafts. You do that every week, and it just teaches you this is my mask, right? And this is why it doesn't need to be there, why it's selling me short. The fire, the culture, I said that's the brotherhood. Around the fire is that brotherhood that should be when you get back home. Except the thing and the clinicians, right? Like I can't echo what she said enough, and I'm almost done. You're not talking to just someone that's just vanilla that had just, checked off the boxes and went to college, and nothing against those people, but you're talking to people who know the culture, who know what to look for. And one of the clinicians, and there's multiple. My main clinician was in recovery. I'm sorry. One clinician, he's lost a couple of jobs as a first responder as when he had his substance abuse. He's been there. He says, no, this is what you're going to push. This is where you're going to encounter this. And this is where you're going to think of this. And that helps so much. I have so much respect for him, so much respect for all the people up there. And this is something I noticed. The current CEO, when you have graduations, I'm a people watcher, right? And I would look over at him in graduation, and this man, and I told him this man he was beaming with pride and looked like a dad watching his kid graduate. Like it was they care, right? And I've heard stories from other people that were like, bro, I've been everywhere and it's just institution and it's this and this is it. This is they care, right? And we had people show up in shackles with the police. We had people show up hammered. We had people makes and models, so to speak. So yeah, as you can tell, I'm a big proponent of the COE. That was the only place I had been, but it was the only place I needed to go.
All right.
I'm done.
Yeah, I appreciate you, Clint. Thank you for sharing, man. As always, we could go on. We could probably, like I told you earlier, we could do an hour and a half, 2 hours just on your story and your experience. Miss Hannah, we're gonna kick it back over to you for essentially final thoughts. We'll kind of let you tie it up and wrap it. Clint will give you a quick wrap up, and then I think we can cap it. So, Miss Hannah, floor is yours again.
Thank you. Thank you, Clint. Thank you so much for sharing your story. There's so much value in hearing from individuals like yourself that have walked it, lived it, breathed it. And so thank you for stepping out and sharing your story. And it truly is going to impact so many people. So thank you for making it okay to reach out and ask for help and seeing on the other side of kind of what that looks like. So thank you so much for doing that. And thank you, Chris, for the opportunity again today. I sincerely hope that individuals listening today can just take a nugget of knowledge that it's okay to reach out and ask for help. And there's so much out there to be able to support you. And we, each and every day are working hard to make sure that the resources that are out there are going to make the most sense for you and are really geared specifically towards you. And we hope to be able to get you connected with whatever that looks like for you, whether it is something in your own home state, whether it's a center of excellence, whether it's connection to peers, education, whatever we can do to support you. We are here each and every day to be able to do that. And absolutely, you are, worth it to invest that time in taking care of yourself, not only to, feel better and build yourself up, but to be able to pour back into your family, be more present at home, and really just be able to be a healthier version of you. So thank you for the opportunity to be here. I look forward to doing what I can to working alongside each member that's looking to work on, getting connected to these resources, and really just thankful for any opportunity that we have to shine a light on behavioral health and really come at it from a proactive approach. So thank you both for the time today.
Miss Hannah, if somebody wants to reach out to you, they're like, hey, I heard Miss Hannah, I need to know more about the COE, or I didn't understand something. How would they get a hold of you? What's the best way to manage that? Yeah.
Give me a call. I will reach out and give you all my cell if that works. My direct cell phone number is 727 506-9036. And I mean it. This guy is always near me. One thing I will say to echo Clint's experience, we do have a 24/7 admissions team. So in the event that you try to reach me and perhaps I'm in a conversation such as this and I'm not able to get to it right away, or if it's, late at night, I do have a 1-year-old at home, so I try to sleep when I can.
Sure.
So what I will say is I'm happy to be a direct point of contact for all of you guys and be able to connect with resources in the event that I'm not able to be reached. Please know that we do have a team that works around the clock 24/7. And as Clint was sharing of his experience with the individuals that he worked with, they are here to support. And I'm happy to have them kind of pick up the slack in my absence. And then as soon as I'm able to get back and connect with you, I will. The number to directly reach them is 855-441-3024. And that goes directly to our 24/7 admissions team. We have dedicated intake coordinators that work exclusively with our Center of Excellence folks and make sure to really keep it as comfortable and supportive as possible throughout that process. But I mean it when I say I am here each and every day to work alongside IAFF members. If you are reporting in and listening in from a peer support team, if there's any training that you all are interested in to kind of continue the online, or even in person opportunities of just continuing conversation about behavioral health, I would love to connect with you all as well. And please don't hesitate to reach out. I'd like to say no question is too small. You all are all worthy of getting connected to any resource that makes the most sense for you. So looking forward to being able to do that.
Thank you. Clint, final word?
To anybody watching, first off, Sam Sparacello is a pretty awesome dude. Much love to him. It's there. Use it. Don't let any I can't afford. Don't even think of that. Right? Just know they care. They care to get you there. They care to get you through, and they care to get you home, functioning as a better human. Right? With that respect for the dragon and knowing how to kill it. I miss it. We have a virtual alumni meeting, and they have it's through Worldwide Peer Support on Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Sundays, and we stay connected. And that's the trend that's been going lately. Everybody's like, "Dude, I miss the COE." I didn't mean that, wife, if you're watching this, but it's magical. Like, I can't say enough. I 12 out of 10, and I'm just one of like 8,000 plus people that have gone there. And when you walk this one long hallway with all the patches on the side, you know you're not alone, right? Like you're not some weirdo or something like that. You're somebody that should accept the praise, right? Like when you're going up there, people are like, "Man, I'm so proud of you." And I'm like, why be proud of me? Like, but take the praise, be proud of it. And it's a phenomenal step. It's a phenomenal place. And if you're thinking about it, reach out to these people and because they care.
Excellent. Clint,
That's it.
I'm going to ask you though, let's say somebody wants to talk to you directly. They want to know about your inside experience versus more of a admission style process from Hannah.
Sure.
What would be the best way to get in contact with you, Clint?
Brother, I got 2 cell phones. I'm gonna give you my personal one, 225-505-3834. I'm not gonna answer. Because it's hard to pin me down. Shoot me a text, leave a voicemail. You can email me. Watch this. This is easy to remember. Remember, I'm a narcissist. Clint at clintsanchez.com. That's a good email too.
Sure.
So, or get all of you. Like it just whatever. Send a carrier pigeon, drive to Baton Rouge. I'm here for whomever, and I'm an open book.
Excellent. All right. We're clipping almost on an hour 30. This is a little bit unorthodox for a podcast. A lot of times, we don't do too much mental health, but it's obviously critical because once again, it's being pushed to the forefront. We got guys like Clint, we got guys like Ryan Davies and Chief Ike and so many others that y'all know that said, "Hey, this place literally saved my life," and you could tell that they mean that. That's important, and we want more people to know that resource exists because so many don't. So if you find, once again, if you need something from me, obviously y'all can always get in contact with me, but you have Clint and Hannah's information. So if you need to get a hold of them, feel free to do so we can get you back on the right path. To both of you, thank you for your time, and we appreciate you coming on and sharing once again your knowledge and your experience. So that's going to conclude the next episode of the Dragons Den podcast, and we'll see you on the next one. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Bye.